Ya Allah, Ya Rabb al-Alamin.
Welcome to the Ummah Talk podcast with me, Fatima Barkatulla.
Let the Ummah rise again.
In this podcast, I speak to scholars, experts, leaders in their field about some of the big issues facing the Muslim community worldwide, as well as your local Muslim community here, especially in the West. So please tune in. You can catch the podcast on Muslim Central Podcasts, which is available on all sorts of audio platforms. So check it out, inshallah. The podcast episodes will also be available on YouTube. So do share the episodes. Let me know what you think about the ideas and the topics that we discuss in the episodes. SubhanAllah, we're living in a unique time in history. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has caused the universe to conspire to create the circumstances that means that we Muslims in the West are uniquely placed to look at, analyze, and perhaps do something about some of the issues facing the Muslim Ummah today. As Muslims living in the 21st century, almost 100 years after the abolishment of the Khilafah, we are in a position to now look back, analyze, talk about, think about what the Muslim Ummah has experienced, especially in the last few hundred years, and what led to our decline and what could possibly lead to our revival. And I believe that begins with dialogue. It begins with us thinking about and talking about and reflecting on some of the big issues facing the Muslim Ummah. So join me in this podcast where I'm going to be speaking to some of our ulama, some of the scholars, experts, academics, people engaging with some of the issues that the Muslim Ummah is facing today. And hopefully we're going to come up with some ideas, conclusions, things that might help all of us to navigate the space and the time in which we live. Because, 100 years from now, none of us are going to be here. But the effects of our actions, the effects of what we did in our lifetimes, inshallah, will be felt by the generations following us. And inaction is also an action, right? Inaction also has an effect. So all of us have to pay attention to this. The revival of the message of Islam, the revival of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a responsibility, and it's the responsibility of every single generation to strengthen and pass on something better to the next generation. And I hope that we can begin to do that. In this episode, I got a chance to catch up with one of my teachers and mentors, Sheikh Haitham al-Haddad. Sheikh Haitham has, I think, he came to the UK, I think, in the early noughties, I believe. He's been quite an active and pivotal figure for Muslims in the UK. I know that he's influential in European countries as well, and some of the mashayikh in America also refer to him or consider him to be a mentor and an advisor. Sheikh Haitham has always really supported sisters who have been involved in da'wah work here in the UK, and that's how I came across him. He used to give classes to some of us back in the day, and I think one of the things about Sheikh is that he might not give the most popular and the most kind of typical answers that sisters would like to hear, but one of the things you can be 100% sure about is that when he does give his views and he does give advice, it comes from a place of deep concern and care for the long-term effect that that advice will have on sisters' lives. So, inshallah, with that, I welcome you to this podcast, and I hope that you're going to benefit from my conversation with Sheikh Haitham. If there's anything in the discussion that really stands out for you, that really resonates with you, you can put it in the comments in, quotation marks, so that other people can also read those gems. I hope you're going to enjoy this podcast series, and I hope you can share the episodes with others. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Dear brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your sister Fatima Barkatulla, and today I have a special guest with me who I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to. It's Sheikh Haitham al-Haddad. The way I would introduce Sheikh Haitham is, I've known Sheikh Haitham for quite a few years. I think I first met him in the early 2000s, after I was married, and I was introduced to his work through my husband. Alhamdulillah, myself and my husband, we consider Sheikh Haitham to be one of our teachers, our mentors. And we in the UK, we're very fortunate, alhamdulillah, to have somebody like Sheikh Haitham here, because I was speaking to my husband before this interview, and I asked him, how would you describe Sheikh Haitham? Like, how would you introduce him? I don't want to introduce him in the typical way where you're like listing all the different countries and universities that somebody studied at, right? Because people can look that up easily online. And he said, I think you should say that, mashallah, Sheikh Haitham has been a unifying force for Muslims in Britain. And I was reflecting on that, and I was thinking, alhamdulillah, that's a really apt way, I think, to introduce you, Sheikh Haitham. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sister Fatima. And may Allah reward you anyway for these good words and for this praise that I don't deserve. Although I wish to be a unifying person for our ummah. And actually, you are right that this is one of my missions. I want to see the ummah unified, because our ummah will not gain any kind of respect within the international setup without being united. And in fact, if I may, let us make this a bit casual. Yes, sister? Okay. If I may just start and jump into the deep end. Subhanallah, the Quran, what is the message of the Quran? The Quran and Sunnah. The message of the Quran and Sunnah is to unify those who unified Allah. Yeah?
Yeah.
To unify those who unified Allah.
The people of Tawheed.
The people, Tawheed man wahad al-ahad in Arabic. All of it is around wahid. Tawheed man wahad al-ahad, unifying those who unified Allah Jalla ala. And that doesn't mean that making those people are the enemies of others. No. But in fact, when those who unify Allah Jalla ala, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَيَجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ, and the central message of Al-Islam is to unify Allah Jalla ala. But some people might say, first of all, some people might say unifying Allah Jalla ala, and yet people are not united. No. Unify those who unified Allah Jalla ala. Okay, I was going to say that once we unify Allah Jalla ala as Muslims, others will be respecting us. So the problems, the global problems and the international conflict will be less, because they will not see us as scattered nations that they can jump on us, and they will have conflict among themselves who will capture more of the Muslim land, more of the Muslim resources. This is one thing. And the other thing, look now at, for example, the post-corona or COVID-19 world. Yeah, because definitely the era before corona is different from the era post-corona. Had there been a Muslim superpower along with the other superpowers that exist now, such as America, China, Russia, if there was another superpower that is Islamic, I think it would have shown a very positive response to the pandemic. And now everyone, I have written an academic paper recently, just 2-3 weeks ago. I submitted it to Cordoba Foundation. They have an academic conference about post-corona world. And MENA relationship. MENA means Middle East, North Africa country. Yeah. So my paper was faith in post-corona world, and everyone agrees, whether Antonio, the United Nations Secretary General, or even Henry Kissinger and the WTO thinkers, everyone agreed that the world did not respond to this pandemic in the way they should be. Most of the countries responded differently, okay, and even once they learned they learned from each other how to respond to the pandemic, but everyone was acting in a very selfish way, because everyone wants to protect their own interests, their own people, etc. And on the other side, there was a report that was recently published that the rich people got richer during this pandemic because everyone was trying to take advantage of the pandemic. Yeah. Now, from an Islamic perspective, Islam is against all of this. Islam is, okay, one of the very general and golden rules of Islam is وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. And what is interesting about this maxim, this Islamic maxim, is the fact that Allah Jalla wa Ala says, help one another on piety, goodness, yeah, and don't help one another on sinning and transgression. Allah Jalla wa Ala didn't say help and cooperate with Muslims only. Allah Jalla wa Ala made the condition is to help one another based on the outcome. The outcome, if it is piety, goodness, yeah, then try to cooperate with all those who have the same aim, and don't cooperate with those who aim to sin and to transgress and to cause damage and corruption, mischief, even if they are Muslims. Yeah. So this might be a nice introduction. Anyway, I took you to the deep end. Anyway.
No.
Okay.
Well, I think one of the things that the whole COVID situation highlighted to everyone in the world is how the virus doesn't recognize borders, right? The virus doesn't recognize borders. It doesn't recognize our skin colors, even our religions, right? It literally is something that is affecting all human beings, and it will take a global effort, to deal with something like that. So I do think that
absolutely,
although there were people taking advantage of the situation, etc., I think for both the West and the East, it kind of was really eye-opening and a bit humbling, I would say, right? So that brings me, Sheikh, to probably the first thing I did want to ask you is, and by the way, I wasn't exaggerating when I described you as unifying, because just so that brothers and sisters are aware, like I would say I remember what it was like in the UK in the 90s, right? And I would say late 90s and early 2000s. And I think there was actually a lot of confusion, amongst certain groups of brothers and sisters, people who were very interested in da'wah, interested in serving the deen, okay, but really didn't know where to direct their efforts. And I think also didn't really have the bigger picture of the ummah in mind, uh, in such a way that would bring about unity, And so I
Yeah,
think, Sheikh, one of the things that, I mean, I'm just speaking from experience, that one of the things that happened when we came across some of your classes and, from your mentorship, was that I think it made people realize that actually, that there had been a very shallow way of looking at things,
yeah,
and also that actually things aren't as black and white as people would have liked, or
yeah,
people thought. And I think a lot of the kind of tensions that existed, especially amongst certain groups of Muslims, alhamdulillah, I do feel that those tensions have subsided. Yeah, I do think that you had a role in that. So
yeah.
anyway, the first question
Alhamdulillah.
I wanted
Yeah,
to ask you about the lockdown and just your reflections on, like, we've kind of come out of it now, I would say, it's pretty much
yeah,
getting back to normal in
yeah,
London. What are some of the, like, reflections about this kind of sudden change of situation that you might have? What are some of the thoughts and reflections that you've had during this period?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, see, to be honest with you, this maybe needs lectures, because
SubhanAllah.
there is a reflection or an individual level. There is reflection or reflections on societal level. There are
Mm,
reflections on global level. There are reflections on psychological issues. There are reflections on financial issues. There are reflections across the board.
yeah,
Uh, but just a quick point. A quick
yeah,
point. I think uh, on an individual level, I think it was a chance, an opportunity for everyone to know his weaknesses and strengths.
yeah, SubhanAllah. Yeah.
And any honest person, he would know that, oh no, this is a weakness of mine. And any person, he sees also opportunities. Yeah.
Mm.
I'll give you just an example, just very, very simple example. Many people were, brothers in particular, they were praying on time in the masajid because the masajid were open. When they were closed, then are they praying as they used to pray? Yeah. Are they engaged in ibadah as they used to engage? On the other side, it was an opportunity because some people feel that when they do ibadah by themselves, then they would do better. Yeah.
Mm.
Also, you will be more sincere in doing ibadah.
Yeah.
Take another point, how much we help others, because everyone was worried financially about himself, about the family. Some people, many people lost their jobs, they lost the income, although even with the fair law, yani thankfully the government has done, yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still some people uh, suffered certain losses, financial losses. However, I have to say that the Muslim community is a community that we need to be proud of. Yeah. And everyone has to be proud of the Muslim community, because almost all the charities that I came across, whether, from because the pandemic started just before Ramadan, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and during Ramadan, and Ramadan is the time where most of the charities become active in,
Mm.
in raising funds for their charities.
Yep.
None of the charities complained, although they were worried that the income will be less this time because people lost their jobs, etc. However, most of them, or actually maybe all of them that I came across, they did very well.
So you
And
mean people were giving? You mean people were giving more sadaqah, or they were giving
more
sadaqah?
sadaqah.
Yeah.
Yes, subhanallah. So this is again another opportunity that came with the challenge. Also, globally, people, Italy suffered a lot, and they were calling the European Union for help, and the European Union countries, they were not ready for it. And it is just only last week that they have agreed of some like a plan, economic plan to face the consequences of the COVID-19. Yeah, and Italy. That's why there were many calls. Even the prime minister of Italy and many others, they wanted Italy to come out of the EU because EU did not help them. Yeah, see, this is even when an international law. On the other side, we see countries like Turkey, for example, have provided medical aid for maybe more than I don't know. They said 50 countries or something like this. Yeah, I came across some countries that, and we know that America, the US, thanked Turkey for sending some medical support. Yeah, the US itself. So this is again another reflection. What is another dimension of reflection? There was a study by a Danish professor. Yeah, and this study has been quoted in many places. She said, this professor said that the Google search for the word prayer, yeah, skyrocketed. Yeah,
really?
yeah. He said, yeah, skyrocketed. And she said, even in non-religious countries such as our, means their country, Denmark, and she analyzed it very deeply. Okay, and she said actually she feels that the number even is higher than the Google search. The number of people who are looking for the word prayer is higher than the Google search. She said basically because there are so many old people who are not maybe online friendly, or use online searching, and those people are not counted in her study. Yeah, and they are the people who will be more interested in the word prayer. In my paper, I found that the question of the pandemic is an ethical question in the first place. It is not a financial question. It is not an economic question. It is not a political question. It is an ethical question in the first place.
In what way? In what way?
Yeah, in what way? See, the world had so many pandemics before. We have the SARS, the MERS, Ebola, etc. Yes or no?
Yeah.
But this is the first virus of this family to cause this lockdown. Okay. Now, why did this lockdown happen? You tell me, why did this lockdown happen?
Because governments wanted to protect their economies and their services, especially their medical services.
Okay, excellent. They want to protect their people, from this virus.
To reduce the number of deaths, etc. Right?
Excellent. So they want to reduce the number of deaths. But on the other side, there was the financial precautions, or consequences. Yes.
Yeah, economic. Yeah.
And the impact of that on the economy. And countries in the beginning they were reluctant, but then there was a debate anyway. Which priority should we prioritize? The economy, or the death toll. Yes or no? And that's why our Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in the beginning, he said you will lose your loved ones. Yeah. And even United States was late in what? In the lockdown, in applying the lockdown. Countries like Sweden, for example, they did not have the lockdown until very late. Yeah. And even other countries, India, Egypt, and so on. Yeah. And but why those who were late in the lockdown, what was the reason? They said, if we apply the lockdown now early, the economy will suffer and we will lose more people because of the downturn in economy, or the downturn in economy, or recession in economy, rather than the number of people we will lose because of what? Because of the virus. Yeah. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Now, it is not just a financial question. No, ethically, what should, when the world faces this, or when different countries face this, so which priority, or how do they prioritize? Do they prioritize short-term deaths or long-term deaths? Yeah.
So it was like a calculation. It's an ethical calculation that governments had to make.
Exactly. يعني مصالح المفاسد.
Yeah.
Harms and interests. Which one should they give weight to more than the other?
Yeah.
That's all. Otherwise, if it was yes, there were like the normal flu. The normal flu last year, I think in 2000, I was doing a study about it. I think in 2018 or 19, 600,000 people around the world died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but in the UK, I think the people who died were 17,000 people or something like this. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I got mixed up with the numbers. Yeah, so it is a big number. It's not a small number by all means.
Yeah, but it's usually spread out, isn't it? It's more spread out.
It's spread out, and no one made a big fuss about it. Yes or no?
Yeah, that's true.
Because it will not have that big impact on economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say, let them die, because we are not going to lock down the country because 17,000 people will die. Yes or no? Otherwise, they can lock down the countries in order to protect those 17,000 people from death.
Yeah, but I think the difference is, isn't it, that the pandemic comes suddenly and overwhelms the NHS, for example, right? And there won't be enough hospital beds, there won't be enough facilities at one time. Whereas because the flu comes throughout a longer period, as they say, the curve is flatter, right? So which means that the economy can handle it. So
I agree, but there are deaths.
Yeah.
And those deaths in thousands.
So what is the point that you're making, Sheikh?
So there are deaths in thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we did not bother. The world didn't bother about those deaths, because those deaths, this negative thing is minor compared what they could do. Yeah. So the priority is not to protect those 17,000. The priority is to protect the economy. Otherwise, they could have done major lockdown in order to protect those 17,000 people. Did you get that? And globally, the world could have been in a lockdown in order to minimize those who die because of the normal virus, the normal flu virus. Yeah, but because they say, well, it is impossible to lock down the globe, and we will suffer from economical recession and consequences. So let them die, those 600,000 people. We cannot do anything against that.
Or
Yeah,
maybe lockdown isn't considered to be the best response to it. Like, for example, there are
yeah. Why?
flu jabs,
Yeah,
there
why?
are, other things
Yeah,
that governments do.
yeah. But they know that the flu jabs, etc., they will not stop these deaths.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I feel like it's a very difficult calculation to make, actually,
So
because
excellent. This is my point exactly. So it is a difficult calculation, and the whole point is what? An ethical question. Yeah. What shall we? Yeah. The priority should be given to what? To save 600,000 people, or to save the global economy. And because the death toll, or the death toll, is not that high, oh yeah, 600,000 people, they are going to die anyway, so let them die. But we cannot lock down the entire world, and the economy cannot be destroyed because we want to protect number of people. So anyway, this is my own conclusion. I don't know, maybe I haven't explained it well, okay, but this is my own
so you feel
conclusion, that
you feel that economics is always put above life.
I have a different view. Yeah, the view now is everything is controlled by emotions. They used to say that the conspiracy theories, etc., etc. Now, if you analyze deeply what is going on in the world, you see that emotions, yeah,
You
is
mean like
number.
public perception and public
Exactly,
relations and
exactly.
how the
Yeah,
public will
emotion.
react to
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
That's it. That is control. The number one controller of everything that is going on in the world. It is not media, even is controlled by emotion, because media knows that if it responds to the emotions of people in a particular way, then people will read more. So media will gain more economy if they respond in the right way to the emotions of the masses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, for example,
Yeah.
George Floyd killing, yeah, murder. Yeah. There are hundreds of people who are killed in every day in the world, and even in America. Yes or no?
Yeah.
But why this took bigger momentum
I think
or bigger coverage?
I think one of the reasons is because now it's being filmed and spread much more. So things like
Yeah,
this were happening, but
yeah.
sometimes until you see it in front of your own eyes, until you see
Excellent.
the inhumanity and the
See?
injustice happen right in front of your eyes, you tend to ignore things.
Yeah. Which is what? Emotion. Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
it's emotion, but it's also based on information, right? Like,
Agree.
yeah,
Agree. Yeah. Information, of course, is a basic need. But what makes this information? Yeah. What makes this information more of maybe have an influence on people? If the information is emotional, yeah,
it has an
then people.
emotional impact. Yeah, it affects
Yeah.
us emotionally. I guess it's because of the long history in America of these things, but Sheikh, hasn't it always been like this? Like, even when you read about the caliphs, the Islamic, khalifas of the past, and in politics, people have always been very cognizant of public perceptions, public opinion. I mean, for example, when we were studying the Abbasids and the Umayyads, we found that I mean, literally the Khalifas would execute people who they feared weren't showing them public support because it would affect the masses, right? So isn't this just a part of politics? And it always has been.
Emotions, yeah, is among the very key primary factors that influence people's decisions.
That's true, Sheikh. And Sheikh, that brings me to one of the topics I wanted to ask you about, and that is one of the things that I like to focus on when I'm speaking to sisters is about their role, okay, in the wider Muslim community, our role as Muslim women in the wider, I would say, the cause of Islam, right? And one of the things that, like, recently a lot of people have been inviting me to speak about is the hijab, right? And because although on the positive side of things, the hijab has become very normal, like Sheikh, I'll tell you that when I was a kid, like in the 80s, my mum was the only woman that we knew who wore hijab, right? Like there were lots of Muslims.
SubhanAllah. Ajib.
Yeah, there were lots of
this is strange.
there were lots of Muslims. There were lots of Muslims, yeah, in the UK, but most of them either through ignorance or just trying to not stand out, they wouldn't wear hijab, right? And so my mum was one of the first people that I knew in my whole community, in who I ever saw wearing hijab. And me as well, like at school, I was the only girl wearing hijab in my secondary school. It was at that time, it was very difficult, I would say, because like when we used to walk on the streets, every time we passed by a white person, my mom they used to swear at my mom or say something, they said something racist. Even at school, like we were made fun of, and we had to be, like, I would say, the trailblazers in many ways, like, so after me, I remember more and more girls started wearing hijab, right, in the following years, because people, I think the nature of people is, as you've mentioned, we look at other people, and when things become normal, we feel more comfortable to do them. So what I'm trying to say is from my perspective, having witnessed what it was like in the 80s and then the 90s, there is a very positive thing that's happened, which is that hijab is very normal, especially on the streets of London, etc. Right? So that's on the plus side. On the negative side, the media, as well as, I would say, the fashion industry has also jumped onto this market, if you like, and they do see the hijab and Muslim women as a market. Although having representations of Muslim women in the media who wear hijab, one could argue that also has a positive effect, right? Because it kind of normalizes it. At the same time, you can see that the media, and being in the media, being in the spotlight, being in that space of, I would say, fashion and fame, it causes sisters, either knowingly or unknowingly, to start compromising on the hijab, right? And then obviously now we see that the hijab is almost treated like an accessory, that you just wear on your head, right? Just like another decoration or something, right? For many people. So one of the things that I try to highlight to sisters is, and I wanted to know your thoughts about this, is that even from colonialist times, the hijab, although the hijab is not the only symbol of religiousness, right? You can't say that a woman who doesn't wear hijab, she's doomed or something like this, or she's not a Muslim. We don't say that, of course, but still the hijab has always been a symbol of, I would say, a woman's adherence to her deen, right? It's just a fact, right? Because obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to, and it's very visible. And so it's always been a symbol. And when you look at like what happened in colonialist times, for example, in Algeria, you know, there's lots of examples there of how the French really focused on the Muslim women and, you know, like divorcing them, I would say, from the hijab, divorcing them from this, you could say, symbol of Islam or symbol of adherence to Islam.
Yeah, yeah,
and they saw that as a political strategy, right? They saw that as a means to I would say, conquering Muslim culture, infiltrating the Muslim mind and changing a whole society. And I think what that kind of shows you is the power that women have, you know, and even people who would like to change or attack Muslims, they see the power that women have, because if you can change a woman and her level of adherence to her deen, then you could change the rest of the ummah, because obviously she's going to influence the next generation. So one of the things I always like highlight to sisters is be aware that what's happening, although we feel happy that, oh, look, you know, hijab is normal, like, you know, like it is quite happy, it's quite nice that now that you can go to a shop, it's quite nice that you can go to a shop, even like a high street shop, and you can buy, you know, modest clothing. You can buy clothing that's loose and long, and so that is nice. But at the same time, I feel like Muslim women are being targeted to kind of water down slowly their commitment to what the hijab is. And it's not just about the hijab, it's that wider commitment to the deen. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that. And
this is interesting what you are talking about. I, you know, now, Sister Fatima, my biggest worry now for our ummah and for the world, for humanity, is what? Is marriage breakdown. This is my biggest worry. This is like yani tweets. So this is tweet number 1. Tweet number 2. I strongly believe that women are, from certain aspects, are stronger than men. And there is nothing called unconditional comparison. They are stronger from all aspects, or they are weaker from all aspects. This doesn't exist in this life. Because al-kamal, complete perfection, is only for Allah Jalla wa'ala. So it is from one side, from one angle, not from the other angle. So I believe that women are stronger than men from many angles, and those angles make them more even influential, which is what you have mentioned. And I'll give you just a simple example. The number of men who committed suicide because they lost their loved girls or partners or wives or girlfriends, is bigger than the number of women who committed suicide because of men. So who is weaker than the other? The male or the female?
Well, we can just say that they have different psychologies, right?
Agree. But if we want to look at it, from the outset, subhanallah, more people committed suicide, because their loved girls left them, than women who committed suicide. And point number 4 or 5. I have interviewed so many young children who memorized Quran, asking them about the key reason for memorizing Quran. And all of them say, or most of them say, it is because of their mothers. Point number 6, or reflection number 6. Imagine, take a scenario of a very influential person. I always say that maybe he is like the main person for the transportation system in London, let us say. Yeah. And he had a meeting, a very important meeting in the morning. So we have two scenarios. In the morning, he woke up and he found his wife ready, prepared breakfast for him. And she said to him, darling, come down. Yeah, have some breakfast. And he said, yeah, I have a very important meeting. We are going to decide for a new system for transportation in London. Yeah, and she said, yeah, and I have ironed this clothes for you. Okay, take this tie, etc. And he is going to go for the meeting. And on the other scenario, the same person, he woke up and he went downstairs. He was looking for his wife. His wife was not there, or she was sleeping. And he said to her, darling, I have a very important meeting. I want my breakfast. She said, oh, I had enough with you. Every time you wake me up, you want to have breakfast. Go just pick any cappuccino or any coffee with croissants and just, okay. And when you come back, you will not find me. I will leave with the children. I had enough with you. And then this person, he left to his meeting. Which one will be performing better in this important decision, important meeting? Number one or number two?
Of course, the one who has a peaceful, nice home and
Yeah.
nice relationship with his wife.
See, on another point, from my observation, because I deal with marriages and marriage breakdown, etc. If husband and wife, if there is a family, and if there is a family, yeah, husband
Yep.
and wife, the wife is a very good mother. She's looking after the children, looking after the husband, and she's focused. She knows what she wants to do, etc. If the husband is an evil man, see, evil man, still the family will function well. Maybe not perfect, yeah, the family will function well, and it is very likely that the children will be raised up in a very good way. Take the opposite. If the husband is the best man in the world and his wife is the evil one, yeah, what will happen to the children? It is very, very hard for the man to raise them up in a good condition.
You're saying that the mother and the wife are pivotal to the family, right?
No, to the life,
Mm.
to the life, yeah, to the entire life.
Mm.
And I was reflecting why the Prophet ﷺ put so much emphasis on women and them being women, females, wives, mothers, etc. Why? Even the Quran. How many times Allah Jalla ala praised business women? How many times Allah Jalla ala praised women who are leaders? Yeah? How many times on the other side? How many times Allah Jalla ala praised women as mothers, as wives? Yeah? In Surah Al-Tahrim, when Allah Jalla ala says, ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون. Yeah, so those examples, those praiseworthy examples or models of women, which is like the peak, is one is a wife of Fir'aun, yeah, and the other one is a mother of the mother of Isa, Maryam, yeah, because of her chastity and for looking after Isa. So why now the entire world, and I'm now preparing this course, the 12 qualities, about the 12 qualities of successful people. And I am reviewing so many lists of successful people. you don't find a single list that mentioned a lady because she was a mother.
Yeah, I understand. So Sheikh, this is an important point that you've brought up. I want to ask you from a different perspective. Yeah. So completely, I can see that the drive to kind of, I would say, make women participate in the economy in a more direct way, right, has made societies around the world kind of make human beings' worth based on their economic contribution, right? Like, I mean, tangible or very clear economic contribution, because of course, mothers and wives do make an economic contribution, but it's not something you can tax, right? Like, they're not going to pay taxes, right? So I can definitely see that governments and society has kind of is pushing women to become, people who earn money, who pay taxes, and concerned with outside the home. Okay. At the same time, isn't it true that two things? One, that sometimes it feels like some of the scholars, and especially Muslim like speakers, etc., emphasize motherhood and emphasize like being a wife, okay, without taking into account that women are of all different backgrounds. Women, are of all different financial backgrounds, economic backgrounds, but also cultural backgrounds, okay, and personalities. And although you could focus on like the fact that, okay, motherhood has been praised in the Quran, and that's a wonderful thing, that's a great thing. That one of the things about Islam is that it allows women to be feminine, to be women, and doesn't degrade or lower that status of being a mother, being a wife, etc. But at the same time, there were women, we have Aisha radiallahu anha, we have other women who were great women of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, who, for example, with Aisha radiallahu anha, she wasn't a mother. So she focused her talents, especially like the Prophet ﷺ passed away when she was 18, right? Or something. So we're talking about a life that was like another 40 years long or more, right? In which she devoted herself to teaching, for example, right? And she's not just an anomaly. If you look at different women throughout history, even the example of, the wife of Pharaoh and Khadija and others, it of course they were wives, but isn't the main thing that made them great the fact that whatever situation Allah gave them in life, they rose to the occasion, they did the right thing, they acted in the right way, rather than it being connected to a particular role, like being a mother or being a wife. Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, with Maryam alayhi salam, the thing that made her great was that Allah put a big test on her, right? A big responsibility and a big test. And she was a true worshipper of Allah. She was somebody who worshipped Allah a lot, right? She was from the Qanitin, right? So she was very, very devoted to worshipping Allah. And so Allah chose her and he gave her a big test, and she rose to that test and she fulfilled her role in that test. So it's not per se that she was a mother. It's more whatever situation Allah gives you in life, that you rise to that situation.
Okay, clear. Okay, the point is clear. Okay, but you just said it. Okay, that the whatever status that Allah Jalla Ala, or position Allah Jalla Ala put you in, and what is the main position that Allah Jalla Ala put women in?
Yeah, so for most Muslim women, they will be a wife and they will be a mother.
Not Muslim women. Okay, women in general. Yeah. Even hunting, animals. I think almost in the entire world, if they allow hunting in certain periods, they wouldn't allow hunting females.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why? Because females can do one thing that others cannot do it, which is what? Producing the coming generation. Yeah. So position, natural position number one of female, yeah, whether human beings or other living beings, is what? To produce the coming generation. So why is this belittled now? Yeah. Now look, now if they cannot be mothers for whatever reason, then yes, they have hundreds of things that they can do. That is the exception. But now we are making the exception as the ruling, and we are making the ruling as the exception. Not only we are making the general ruling as the exception, but we are belittling the general ruling.
Right.
Yeah? And we are not at least acknowledging that this is priority number one. This is the general ruling. I am saying at least let us acknowledge that the most important job of females, yeah, is what? Motherhood. Whenever I mention this, then people say, yeah, but there are sisters who did not get married. Okay, calm down. Why? You know, when people have reaction like this, it means that they have something. Yeah, they are not. Again, they are discussing things in an emotional way. They are not discussing things in a rational way. Yeah. Okay. So
because of the way we've been brought up, you know, like I'll give you an example. Even myself, I was brought up in a religious family, right? But
yeah,
I would say I had like 3 little babies, and I was kind of busy at home, but before that I was like very, I would say, high flying at school, you know, like I was the top student. I was a straight A student. And so going from that, so what I'm trying to say is, from a young age as girls, right, we are brought up to be very focused on outside the home, you know, in the West especially.
yes, yeah. This is
And
now, see, Fatima, this is now an international agenda.
so I remember, like, when I was then when I then became a mother, of course I wanted to be a mother, I want to be a wife. But when the reality of that, kind of the difficult part of that role kind of hits home, okay, I would say there were periods when I would like say to my dad, for example, I would say, Dad, you know, what's my legacy going to be, right? And I remember asking my dad that, and he pointed at my children and he said, what do you think these are? You know, he said, what do you think these children are? You know, they are your legacy. They're your greatest legacy. So
exactly,
sometimes we, like, as I would say, girls brought up in the West especially, first of all, we've been allowed, we have had the opportunity to express our talents and develop our talents outside the home, right? And probably we've developed them more than our talents inside the home, right?
yeah.
And then when the reality of motherhood and being a wife and building a home hits us, even if you're from a religious family, even if you're from a very traditional family, it is hard. You know, raising children is hard, and you need a very high level of motivation to do that. Okay.
Agree.
But at the same time, wouldn't you say that it's just a cultural thing as well? Like the fact that we've been brought up, like, Sheikh, another aspect of this is, I think, you know, like as I've gotten older, so now my children are a lot older, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they don't need me. I do think that they need me, and I do think that as a mother, you have to focus on the home and etc. However, human beings have different personalities, right? And for me, I've got a lot of things that I would like to do outside the home as well, right? I don't really look at it like that, inside and outside. I just think this is just me. I just, you know, for example, I've always been involved in dawah since I was a child at school. You know, I've been interested in dawah, been talking to people about Islam. And it almost becomes, if what I'm trying to say is human beings have different personalities and different talents, right?
Agree,
And
agree.
to a certain extent, that needs expression. And if it isn't expressed, people can get depressed, you know. I feel like the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that desire in me, I'm not saying my desires, like as in, you know, ahwa, I'm not saying that. I mean, that he gave me that talent, you know, and that he gave me that motivation, right? The fact that I've got that, isn't that in itself an indication that, you know, subhanallah, Allah has created each of us with different personalities, different propensities, and we're not always going to be in that situation of, you know, having little children, for example, right? So
Okay, yeah, but see, Fatima, again, you are giving more space to the exception. We are not talking about, yeah, we are not talking enough about the mother and being a mother and the role of a mother, yeah, which is, as I said, priority number one, which should have the space. You are just saying, yeah, but there are sisters who have this talent outside and they are this and that, and even when they were their children grow up, etc. And we are not speaking about how to become a mother, how to prepare to be a mother, how to raise the children in the right way, and how to deal with the husband, and how to balance between the husband and the children, and to how to face the challenges of the outside and the impact of that on your children.
yes,
We are not talking about all of these things, and we are just talking about some exceptions that my children grew up now, and also myself, and I feel that myself have this talent and I always want to do this and that. We are not talking about hundreds of or thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of women who became depressed because they are not mothers, yeah,
that's true.
or of those mothers who were mothers, yeah, and they did not see, they become depressed because, and this is now becoming a phenomena, by the way, yeah, I found it, that they feel after, yeah, after number of children, they see that they haven't achieved a lot in their life. And as your father told you, this is your legacy to your children. Now, not many fathers are saying this to your
You're right.
to their daughters. Yeah, we are not talking about that.
In other words, if we were to raise and promote and give motherhood and being a wife the place it deserves, then sisters wouldn't feel that it was, they wouldn't belittle it in their minds, right? And society
Of course,
wouldn't belittle it.
of course,
And so it would be more fulfilling. It would lead to more, well, actually, it would lead to more motivated mothers, more motivated families.
exactly,
Like one of the things
exactly,
I like to say to sisters is, you know, make family your finest project. You know, just as we,
exactly.
just as a person has a project where, you know, they're managing a project outside, you know, in a business or something, and they they have all these different things that they do in order to make sure that project is successful. I
Yeah,
feel like, unfortunately, like you said, because motherhood is seen like as like a thing on the side or something that you
yeah,
do around your real job, right?
yes,
um, what happens is we don't look at it as a project. And then when something goes wrong, or when things start going wrong, or when we've been neglectful and things go wrong, we wonder like, what happened, you know? Because
yes,
nobody told us that this is a very worthy, meaningful and important, if not the most important thing that you're ever going to do, raising
exactly,
raising
exactly.
the human beings of the future. But Sheikh, can I say, one of the things I noticed, like in when I went to Malaysia, I was speaking about motherhood, and you know, some of
Yeah,
the, by the way, some of the things I just mentioned to you, I'm mentioning to you as, you know, like to kind of as advocate, I would say, not
yeah,
because
no, no, no problem. It's fine.
not because I
Yeah,
necessarily believe those things, but you know, it is something to think about. You know, that, you know, sisters, something that sisters often say. But yeah, the point I was making about Malaysia, and when I gave a speech about motherhood there and the importance of the early years, because I do feel very strongly that little babies should not be being looked after by strangers, should not be being
Of
looked
course,
after by
not at
people
all.
who
Yeah,
don't love them, basically, right?
yeah, yeah.
At least up to a certain age.
Naturally love them.
Yes,
Yeah,
naturally love them. So either mother, father, grandparents, for most
yeah,
people, or for many people, they are literally putting their little babies into
yeah,
daycare, where a stranger who's paid less than the minimum wage, or the minimum wage,
yeah,
is
yeah,
paid to look after them, and they think
yeah,
that that's going to be as good as them bringing that
yeah,
baby up, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
definitely, I know that from a psychological perspective, it's harmful for kids. There's
Yeah,
no two ways about it. Even
yeah,
like many books about this. So that's fine. So when I was talking about that in Malaysia, and I was really surprised because it's a Muslim country, right? A few
yeah,
sisters came up to me afterwards, and they said, and they were really like affected by the talk, and they said, Sister Fatima, it really, like, what you said really resonated with us. Okay.
yeah,
One of them, for example, she had a baby with her, 6 month old. She said, you know what, Sister Fatima, I want to stay at home. Okay.
mm,
I want to stay at home. I just had a baby. What's the point of having a baby if I'm just going to leave the baby now, right?
yeah,
But she
exactly.
said, but because I have a degree,
Yeah,
because I have this qualification, my
yes,
husband, my
yes,
husband, forget about anyone else, right? She
yeah,
said, my husband and my parents-in-law,
yeah,
they are putting so much pressure on me to
yeah,
go back to work. They're saying to
yeah,
me, go back to work. We'll look after the parents-in-law are saying, we're going to look after
yeah,
kids, go back to work. And she said, but
yeah,
I want to breastfeed. I want to,
yeah,
I don't feel ready to go back,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, Sheikh, there is this phenomenon as well now in
Of
in the Muslim
course,
community,
it is.
where the men are literally telling sisters, their wives, and they're not
Yeah,
embarrassed to tell their
yeah,
wives
yeah.
to basically go out to work, right?
It is. It is. See, Fatima,
Mm,
it is. It is. This is an international agenda. Yeah, and it is very unfortunate that the people who are going against this wave or these waves are very, very few in number. And now, if they want to talk about an enlightened da'i or Muslim, yeah, or he's an open-minded person, the first thing when they want to describe him is, yeah, and his wife, she had this job, and his wife is in the front in this, and he is promoting women to work, and he's promoting sisters to take leading positions, etc., etc. Who is, yeah, praiseworthy because he is pushing for the motherhood agenda? Yeah, no
mm.
one. Yeah, no one. And even in Malaysia, because I visited Malaysia a few times, and recently I spent like good time in the Malaysian summit in December. Yeah, the thing is, if a country wants to talk about enlightenment, etc., they are talking even. And this is one of the things that worries me about Turkey now. Yeah, they say, yeah, and our women, they are taking leading positions in this place and that place,
Yeah, yeah.
etc., etc. And they don't know that by doing this, they are destroying the value of motherhood within women. Yeah.
Right. And isn't
And
it the United Nations? I think this is because of the United Nations, because
yes, yes,
the United
this is what I
Nations,
said.
the
United, this is
United
an
Nations
agenda.
publish this list of kind of things that
Yes,
a country has to achieve if they want to be seen as developed, and like
yes, exactly.
regarding women,
And
especially regarding
yes,
women. And one of those things that is very much promoted is exactly this. So basically, countries try to sort of show off and say, look, we're meeting these
yeah,
United
standards.
Nations
Yeah, yeah,
standards without
requirements. Yeah,
realizing the
that they
heart.
are destroying themselves.
So do you
And
think
see,
this drive is due to, because I thought the reason why this drive is there is for economic purposes, right? So instead of having one, half of the population working and they're paying the taxes, right? You get to have twice as many people working. You can pay them less, right? So the salaries go down. You have twice the number of workers, and they both pay taxes, right? That what is the reason? Is it that, or is it population control? No, what is the
just
what's
one
the
by one.
reason for this?
Yeah, one by one. First of all, regarding the concept, whether it is right or wrong, which is to push women into the industry, different industries and leading position, etc. Yeah. Now, see, and the fact that many Muslim countries, unfortunately, are following this. Now, first of all, when Western countries, they were post Enlightenment and post French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, and those Western countries who rebuilt themselves and they became superpowers and they became developed countries and their economy is one of the top 20. When they started, did they push women into work like this, or they started with the traditional families?
Just 100 years ago, the norm was, family,
the traditional family.
The traditional family, mother at home, the father's income would support the entire family.
Agree.
Etc.
Okay. This is in all these countries. So see, people sometimes are very shallow in their approach. So in order for you to develop, you should start as others started, or you should take lessons from the way others started. You should not come to after development, what is their situation now, and then we need to copy that. No, but you are copying them after they have developed. You should copy them in the way they developed. Did you get that?
Yeah, but I think in the West, it was also due to the war, due to millions of men being killed.
Agree.
Women having to go to the factories and doing those jobs, and then after the war, it didn't really ever change back, in a way. And then the feminist movement, definitely, there was like a belittling of motherhood, belittling of traditional roles, and then the sexual revolution, where they basically belittled marriage, even, right? And so so then it's all about
family values.
Free love.
They belittle, let us say, belittle family values. My point is, belittling family values, because many people say that they don't call it belittling family values, but let us say, because of time, belittling family values. Is it the way to build great civilizations?
No.
Great civilizations were built based on family values. Right. Once they were built and they became great civilizations, and now they have nothing to think about, and maybe there are different agendas, they started to belittle family values.
Well, when they started, you could even say when they started moving away from God, when they started moving away from the value of human life, even, that's when
agree. So now, some people, like some younger children, they want to be rich, and they see some rich people who are relaxing in big houses, etc., etc. What they want easy money. They don't look how those rich people were working hard when they were young, and when they were young, they were even cleaning the streets, doing any kind of job in order to climb the ladder. Yes or no? They don't look at this. They look at, oh, now he has a big house, and he's relaxing, and he's spending this, and he's buying these brands, etc. And they start thinking, oh, let me buy these brands, let me do this, let me relax, let me travel. This is how the way how these rich people are behaving. Yes, they are behaving like this now after they became rich. But when they were young, like you, yeah, how they were conducting themselves. Did you get the point?
Yeah. So you're saying that that great civilizations are built on the foundation of strong families. Then later, maybe when they become,
strong,
when they become opulent and when they have luxury and then they might become negligent and etc. But
exactly.
I would go so far as to say, when people get impressed.
This is, by the way, this is my second point. Sorry.
Yeah.
And now, because they become relaxed, etc., and as Ibn Khaldun said, then the decline will start.
Then the decline starts, right? I was going to say that, when people look at certain countries and they feel impressed by them, right?
Yeah.
So like, I remember when I was a student in Egypt, sometimes people in Egypt and even in India, they're very impressed by Britain, right? The idea of Britain,
Yes.
Wow, you're from Britain. They used to say, Anti min Britannia, like, you wear hijab, like, they thought, what kind of, they have a certain image of Britain and how successful it is. And I would say, like the poet Iqbal, he used to say, because he lived in the West, he lived in Britain, and he lived in different European countries, and then he went back to India, and then he helped build Pakistan, right? One of the things he always used to say in his poetry is, this civilization that looks so shiny on the outside, is empty inside. It's empty inside. And that's one of the like running themes in a lot of his poems, that he was trying to say to the people of the East, that, look, I've lived right in amongst these people, right? And what looks to you very shiny, very developed, they say very developed, very developed countries, actually, it's the shiny exterior, it's like a present, the wrapping on the outside. What's on the inside is, there is a lot of rot on the inside, but it's just not very visible to people, right?
This is absolutely the case. And even Sayyid Qutb mentioned something like this as well when he stayed in America for some time. See, I was going to say that if someone says, yeah, but look at them now, I said, no, now it is very unfortunate that many of them are living on their past, living on their legacy. And if they continue living like this, after some time they will suffer from, they will start declining. And someone says, oh, who says so? I said, look at one thing, one element only, the birth rate.
The birth rate, exactly. Yeah, why did Angela Merkel, why was Angela Merkel so happy to have immigrants?
Yes.
It's because the birth rate in Germany is very low.
And as you mentioned, Germany, one of the brothers is from Germany. I told him, Allah, I should migrate to Germany, man. He takes 8 months paternal leave. 8 months.
Maternity leave, really?
Yeah, paid. Okay, I think this for the first child, the second child, it becomes 6, and then I said, what? Yani, if you have a child, most of your time you don't you don't work. I said, well, it will be a job to produce children.
So you mean they're trying to incentivize? They're trying to make
it? Yes. Putting so much incentives in order to encourage people to. Okay, and you have heard what happened in Austria. Is it Austria? Yeah, Austria. When many Syrian immigrants, they were coming, and then the parliament discussed this, and they said, why do we need to have Syrian immigrants? Let us encourage our women to have children. And they said that the family that have 4 children, they would receive this much salary and this much incentive, etc. Okay. But, and you see, and even in Britain here, in the official book that is has to be studied to become neutralized, they say we are an aging country, yeah, whereby the number of people who are above 65 is far bigger than the number of people, or is bigger than the number of people less than 16. Why is this happening?
I think there's lots of reasons. One is that marriage is not even on people's agendas, and women are encouraged to spend the youngest all their 20s basically working. They delay marriage, they delay settling down with somebody and having children. Also the fact that you can delay childbirth now, right, because of different contraceptive
so
things.
most of these reasons go back to damaging family values.
Yeah, so the family no longer being the priority, and no longer being seen as like I said, a project, right? A worthy
exactly, as your lifetime project, as your legacy. Okay, what is the percentage of young people consuming alcohol, drugs in the UK? There are no exact figures. Some statistics confirm that maybe 50% of them, some say less, some say more, but definitely it is a big number. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Everywhere you hear drugs. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Why is this? Because there are no family values. The boys, when they leave the schools, they leave at 3 o'clock. Their mothers will come home at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and she's not ready for them.
There's nobody keeping an eye on what's happening.
Let alone that there is no one to keep an eye on them. Let alone marriage breakdown. Even there was a report about the housing crisis. I don't want someone to quote me because I forgot the figures. This was quite long time ago. And they said one of the key reasons for housing crisis is what? Single parents. Because in many councils in the UK, the single parents are occupying maybe more than 1/4 of the houses. Had the families been there, so this 1/4 has been saved. And this is just one more point. Okay, you said that economy will improve when both husband and wife work.
I mean that's what
they say. Actually there are many studies, again it is quite long, that confirm that no, that is not true, that when both parents the work, the economy will improve. Maybe on a minor, on a micro, short term, yes, husband and wife, they feel it, but on a macro level, this is not true.
I said it depends on how you're measuring success, right? Like if it's purely on how many taxes are coming in, for example, then you might think that. But if you're looking at the overall well-being of society, the crime rate, the number of children dropping out or committing suicide, or if you're factoring all of those things in, then you would realize that mothers who, especially who are devoted to their children and their families, have a massive economic contribution. But maybe you just can't count it. You just can't count it in monetary terms. It's not easy to count.
That is the point. And I remember reading a statement by one of the Nobel Prizes winners in economy. And that was really amazing statement. He said one of the reasons for I think he was talking about the 2008 recession, or the 5 one. Anyway, one of them is the fact, he said, that could have been resolved if men are doing their jobs as men. Women are there doing their jobs as housewives, looking after the families. Yeah. And he went and he was explaining why this recession is taking place from a macroeconomic perspective. Yeah, as you said. So to say that, well, this improves economy, that is not true.
I think that definitely there's two things I want to mention. One is that definitely that, motherhood being belittled, and well, actually, there's this psychologist, Professor Jordan Peterson. One of the things
Yeah, well known. Yeah, the
Canadian.
American, yeah, very critical about feminism.
He's Canadian, yeah, and yeah, from the University of Toronto. And one of the things that he was saying is, we lie to women, right? He said we've taught women a lie. The lie is that they're never gonna basically, want to be mothers, or that that they can delay motherhood, right? And they can keep delaying it. And so that's why he says, that's why, like, by the age of about 30 something, a lot of women drop out of work, or they lower they reduce their hours of work, and they don't want to become CEOs, and they don't want to become, because they realize that the clock is ticking, right? And they need to settle down. They need to have, if they want to have babies, there's a limited amount of time, right, for them to do that, and for them to get married, and getting married, finding a man, etc. All of that takes time, right? And takes a level of
yeah.
So he was saying that we lie to women and girls, right? Telling them that motherhood is just going to be this little thing that, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to highlight. That as a girl, I'll tell you, like in my school, Sheikh, we did this exercise, okay? Because the problem is, in the West, because marriage has been belittled so much, teenage pregnancies and pregnancies outside of marriage, especially young girls, was a very big problem. In the 90s, Britain was the biggest country, the country that had the highest number of teenage pregnancies, right?
I remember that in two. I think I was delivering a lecture, and I was making, I think that was on 2003 as well. Yes.
So, can I tell you what my school did? I went to a girls' school in Barnet, a state school. And our teachers, everyone was obviously very trying to get us to become career women, right? That was the main thing, right? They wanted us to be successful career women. Yeah. And one of the things they did, you're not going to believe this, okay? This is like a social experiment. This sounds like a social experiment. They got us they gave us each an egg, like a raw egg, okay? And they told the girls that as an exercise, we had to look after that egg for the whole week, okay?
Okay.
We have to carry that egg with us in our bags, okay? So basically, we had to wrap it in cotton wool, and we have to build something around it to make it protected, okay?
Yeah.
We have to carry that egg with us everywhere we go for 1 week, okay?
Yeah.
And it sounds really stupid now, but the purpose of this exercise was to put us off motherhood, okay? It was to prevent teenage pregnancies, okay? And whenever I tell people, like, who are from the East this, they're like really shocked, like, oh my God, like, sounds so backward, sounds so. But can you imagine? They were trying to make us feel how difficult it is to carry an egg with us all week, to somehow represent motherhood. Like, it's so hard to have a baby, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so undesirable as well, yeah? So you can imagine that if that has been ingrained in you now, okay, subhanAllah, like, even just like a few weeks after I left school, I got married, my sister met one of my teachers from school, and she said, oh, how's Fatima, how's she doing, where is she now, because they thought probably in some high-flying university, because I was one of the students. And my sister said, oh, she's just had a baby, right? And my sister said the lady, like, her face looked so like shocked, you know, like, oh God, you know, like as if we didn't bring these girls up to become mums, you know, at the age of 19, at the age of 20 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for them, it's like seen as, oh, this is a failure, right? But that's because for them, they have a problem of teenage pregnancies, which is pregnancies outside of marriage, where the male is not taking any responsibility and the poor girl is basically left with the literally carrying the baby. So because of that problem, they kind of generalized this. One of the things they did was to generalize this kind of anti-motherhood, you know, like
motherhood.
Yeah, but you can just see from that little experiment, like that's gonna have a psychological effect on the girls, right?
Yeah.
A negative effect. So on the one hand, I completely can see what you're saying, that, you know, motherhood should not be something that is a side project. It shouldn't be presented to girls as if it's not going to be a very important and central part of their life. Okay. At the same time, Sheikh, like, wouldn't you say that what you're saying is a bit unrealistic for real families living right now? Or are you advocating? So, for example, a typical thing that sisters will say, or people will say when they hear our discussion is, oh, you don't understand, like, the bills. You don't understand how much it costs to pay our mortgage or whatever it is, whatever, you know, costs there are for living nowadays, right? We can't live on one income. That's one thing a lot of people say. Another thing is, aren't you, or doesn't it sometimes sound like shuyukh focus too much on the sisters, right? When in fact, like I mentioned, the example of Malaysia, right? And those sisters, a number of sisters who came to me and said, oh, our family, especially even the men, they told us to go back to work. They want us to have to earn money, right? Aren't you overly focusing on the sisters generally when we talk about this topic? And doesn't it need to come from the men as well? So if a man is stepping up, if he sees it as, you know what, this is my responsibility, it's shame on me that I'm sending my wife out to work, you know, if if I have not exhausted all the efforts that I could myself first, right? If we don't instill that mentality in the boys and the men, then how can it change? You know, so I just wanted you to address those 2 points. You know, the fact that the cost of living is so high. Are you saying that people should have zuhud now and just like?
Agree. Okay. First of all, see, let us talk about economy just briefly, and in response to your question. Subhanallah, Allah Jalla wa Ala, first of all, created this life in a way that Allah Jalla wa Ala made that there are some tangible, materialistic reasons that will lead to outcome. And there are also non-tangible reasons that lead to certain outcome, either other outcomes or the same. However, for certain outcomes, sometimes the tangible reasons are more important, and sometimes the non-tangible reasons are more important. Is this clear idea? This idea, is it clear?
I think so.
Okay. So with the rizq, the non-tangible reasons are more important than the tangible reasons.
The metaphysical, you're saying?
The metaphysical, reasons are more important than the physical reasons with rizq. And this doesn't appeal except to believers. And that's why there is a challenge here. I agree that there is a challenge. But let us talk about believers. Let us talk about believers. Of course, here with rizq and with economy in particular, the non-tangible or the metaphysical reasons are connected to the physical reason. And I will explain that in a minute. But if you read Quran and Sunnah, you will see that rizq is linked to the taqwa. Rizq is linked to spending more for the sake of Allah Jalla wa'ala. Rizq is linked to spending in useful for useful reason. Yeah. Okay. ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا. What? In Surah Al-Talaq.
ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب.
See, ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه.
No.
And he provides him. Allah Jalla wa'ala called himself الرزاق. إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر. The shaitan promises you poverty. Yeah. والله يعدكم مغفرة منه. Allah promises you forgiveness and fadla, increase in rizq in this dunya. Allah Jalla wa'ala also says ولو أن أهل القرى, had the people of the towns feared Allah Jalla wa'ala, Allah Jalla wa'ala would open the barakah of heavens and earth. But they did not believe. That's why Allah Jalla wa'ala withdrew this. Allah Jalla wa'ala spoke to us about Sheba, yeah, in Yemen. And because when they had neglected the ni'mah of Allah Jalla wa'ala, and they did not appreciate the ni'mah of Allah Jalla wa'ala, and they disbelieved in Allah Jalla wa'ala in a way that entails rejection of His favor upon them, فأعرضوا فأرسلنا عليهم سيل العرم وبدلناهم بجنتين ذوات أكل خمط وأثل وشيء من سدر قليل. When they turned their backs against Allah Jalla wa'ala, Allah Jalla wa'ala took their rizq from them. Okay, and there are so many. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, and he addressed people, he said, أيها الناس أفشوا السلام وأطعموا الطعام وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام تدخلوا الجنة بسلام. O mankind, he addressed everyone. And this hadith is one of the miracles of Sharia, by the way, full of miracles, not just one miracle. Spend salam in order to establish security, and this is requirement number one for any civilization. Requirement number two is what? Economy. The Prophet ﷺ said, share the food, yeah, feed people. I was reflecting upon this. He didn't. The Prophet ﷺ did not say where to get it from, where to improve, how to improve economy. He just said, feed people. Okay, come on, but do we feed them from where? Yeah, where do we get the food from? The Prophet ﷺ didn't speak about that. Yeah, subhanallah. When I was reflecting upon all of these evidence, I found that as Allah Jalla wa'ala says, وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا أَتَاهُ اللَّهُ. When your rizq is becoming tight and you have financial constraints, in order to expand your rizq, what do you need to do? Help others. في سبيل الله.
Spend in the way of Allah, and is a means for your rizq to be increased.
Exactly. Spend in the way of Allah. Yeah. And now
so it's basically it's counterintuitive.
Economy,
it's counterintuitive, yes, right?
Of course. And the economy theory, by the way, the economy theory, okay, of Adam Smith. Some people say that he took it from Ibn Khaldun. Anyway, let us not get into this. Adam Smith, you know, he's the father of modern economy. He's from Glasgow. He says that when the wealth is circulated, it grows. Yeah. So it is the same. Yeah. When we circulate wealth, it grows, but we circulate it for the right reason, which is helping others for the sake of Allah Jalla wa'ala. It grows. They mention that psychologically, when people know that they spend in this way, yeah, then they start to become more smart in the way they spend, and they become even more productive. Yeah, let alone the barakah, yeah, will come down. Yeah, every single day, as the Prophet ﷺ says, two angels come down. One of them says, oh Allah, give those who give. And the other one says, oh Allah, make it tight on those who abstain from giving. See, I can talk more about it, but the issue of rizq, and I found that the people who are worried about their rizq, they are the people who are suffering more. The people who are not worried about rizq, subhanallah, Allah Jalla ala what gives them more. And show me any generous person who is not wasting his money, any generous person who became what? Poor and devastated. And actually, even the other day, they asked me on Islam channel, Sheikh, we started some business and we want how our business can grow from Islamic perspective. I said to them, do two things. Have clean hearts, wish goodness for everyone. Number one, which is linked to number two. Give as much as you can, especially to your own relatives.
SubhanAllah.
So this is a call for those families who are suffering from financial difficulties. Spend for the sake of Allah Jalla ala. Allah Jalla ala will put barakah, and increase your income. Now you need one thing to do that, which is to have your trust in Allah.
Tawakkul, naam. I was going to say, this what you're advocating, Sheikh, is going to take a lot of iman, tawakkul,
of course,
and also a sense of qana'a. This concept of qana'a that you live. Would you say a good translation is live within your means, be satisfied with what you have, and
be content.
Contentment.
With what contentment. Be content with what you have, not just as a helpless person. No, not the negative one, the positive one. And by the way, this which is giving others and helping others is actually shukr, because as you know, shukr, being thankful to Allah Jalla ala, has three main elements. As all these branches of faith have. The first one is acknowledging the ni'mah of Allah by your heart. The second one is acknowledging it by your tongue. And the third one is acknowledging by what? Your limbs. How? By spending it for the sake of Allah.
So you would like the Muslim community to adopt this approach, this philosophy to rizq, both men and women?
Yes.
And this will go some way for human beings, for us as Muslims, to realize that actually there are non-tangible, metaphysical things, powers, like things like barakah, concepts like barakah, and at work, that it might not show up in your balance sheet at the end of the month, in your budget, but in real life, in your everyday life, it has an effect.
Absolutely. That's Let us talk about that. I want campaigns now, whereby women, females, girls, to appreciate being mothers. That's all. Working, not working, dropping university, not dropping university, etc. Leave it up to each one and her own circumstances. But at least let us now have campaigns. So parents, children, everyone, acknowledge the status of motherhood. Acknowledge the role of motherhood. And then, and to make this as the norm, as the general ruling, and then we can have exceptions. Then it will be a healthy situation. But to have the exception as the norm, and the other way around.
Because it's gone so far the other way, you're saying that now we need to redress the balance, and you know, and advocate for motherhood and for the traditional roles again, so that we restore the status, the importance, and the self-esteem, I would say, that
Yes.
that mothers have, and also that the support system, that because when a society values a role, they will support that role. They'll do everything that they can to make that role
Yeah.
easier and better, and more valued. And so, yeah, Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. I must say that I remember once you came to a group of sisters who were like just graduated from Alimiyahs, and I invited you to come and speak to them, and you talked about lots of good things, of course, but one of the things that you highlighted especially was, and these were young sisters, I would say 20s, in the early 20s, and you were advocating to them that don't delay marriage,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that was a bit surprising to them. Okay, like afterwards, I don't think they expected that,
Yeah.
because it's become like the cliche, for I would say, for, like you said,
Yeah.
modern
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
encourage all sorts of other things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
almost like motherhood is something not to really mention, or it's seen as like an
Yeah.
old-fashioned you'd be seen as an old-fashioned sheikh, right, to mention it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
can I tell you something, Sheikh? After you left,
Yeah.
the sisters were actually very grateful, for what you said, because a lot of them, it was on their mind. It is something that is
Yeah.
on their mind, that
Yeah.
they're not sure, like, should they first be putting this ahead or that ahead, and in
Yeah.
a way you gave them a reality check, because you were telling us about the number of sisters who come to you, who sadly, and I think people don't realize this sometimes, the number of sisters who
Yeah.
come to you who maybe when they were in their early 20s they did have the opportunity to get married, or even younger, and they kept kind of turning people away because they wanted to prioritize other things.
Yeah.
Then they find themselves in the situation where maybe they're coming close to 30 or over, where suddenly the opportunities to get married are not there anymore, right? And they're
Yeah.
drying up,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
most brothers will, any Muslim man who's religious, who doesn't want to have haram relationships, he's going to get married young, right? He's going to get married as soon as
Yeah.
he can.
Yeah.
And so you really gave the sisters a reality check, and I can tell you that a number of them, after you left, they actually got married. They were considering people for marriage, and I
Alhamdulillah.
think
This is great. Yeah.
after you spoke to them, it kind of gave them that little push, because, like you
Yeah.
said, nobody is saying this. Like, it's not in in the average girl's ears. This is not being said anymore, or at least it's
Yeah.
being
It
said
is
very,
unfortunate. Very.
very.
And I say to the shuyukh, by the way, I say to them, fear Allah Jalla wa Ala, you are cheating women. You are cheating sisters. Yeah. It is
Mhm.
a harsh word, but this is a reality. Just one quick point,
Mm,
that one time we had, it was in another country, and like this was one of the big conferences, and the brothers in charge of that, okay, they always consult me. Anyway, they want to have like a token of appreciation for like outstanding young people. So they had for two brothers, two sisters. And then they say, oh, this brother achieved this and that and this and that, and this brother achieved this and that and this. And when they brought the sisters, they said, oh, this sister achieved this and that. And then the others I achieved this and that. I said, and it was like, very difficult for me to stand against this in the whole conference. I said, and none of those sisters were appreciated because she was a mother, or none of them she was appreciated because she supported her husband. And actually, you are belittling women, and this is my final word, because the standard for the achievement of women now is what? is the achievement of men. So they are making women inferior to men by measuring their achievements according to the achievement of men. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why there will be always disturbance in this equilibrium of the dynamic of the social relationship between men and men, and there will be a disturbance in the whole social setup. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Women, they need to be confident of who they are. We need to be confident of who we are. We should not, as men, try to achieve what women are achieving, and women should not try to achieve what men are achieving. Allah Jalla wa ala summarized this in one verse in Surah An-Nisa. Yeah. ولا تتمنوا ما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسبنا واسألوا الله من فضله إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما. Don't wish what Allah Jalla wa ala has given some of you over the others.
Mm-hmm.
Women have their own virtues, men have their own virtues. Ask Allah Jalla ala from his fadl, from his bounties, from his favors upon you, not to ask him to have what he has given others. Yeah. Why? Allah Jalla ala says, Inna Allah bi kulli shay'in, Inna Allah kana bi kulli shay'in alima. Allah knows everything.
Well,
Okay.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. I will say that, sometimes people, they might caricature what you've said, and the message that you're giving as, I've heard people, they try to caricature this type of message as being somehow anti-women or, against women's desires and wishes and ambitions. But one of the things I would say is, and I've said this to sisters before, is, after one of your talks or one of these kind of things that you've mentioned, I've said to them that actually it's out of Sheikh Haitham's immense love for Muslim women, the sisters, okay, and their well-being, that he is advocating this, because he every day he deals with the sisters, he comes across all the cases, and he sees what we don't get to see in terms of the negative effects of this imbalance that you're describing. And so, I really hope that the sisters who are listening to this podcast, I hope they realize that, subhanAllah, sometimes we might hear a sheikh or somebody saying something that is in accordance to popular culture, right? So they might be advocating to us, get out there, sisters, go and do this, go and do that. You can change the world, blah, blah, blah. And, in the way that men do, right? And we might think that they are the real advocates and supporters of women, right?
Yeah.
When in fact that message is harmful, right? That message is harmful to us as women. And so I would encourage, the sisters who are listening to, one of the phrases I always say, Sheikh, is let us be women of substance.
Yes.
Let us not be fickle women who are just affected by the latest fad, the latest, cool kind of, like you said, emotions, right? The emotional message, the emotive message that is being put out there, the images,
exactly.
Trend.
And
let us think a bit deeper. Let us look a bit deeper, think a bit deeper about the real effects of what the message that's being given to us is.
Yeah, absolutely. And by Allah, by Allah, I can say, by Allah, wallahi, this is beside, that I find that this is an obligation upon me. By Allah, what you said is absolutely true. That my motivation for this is my sympathy with sisters, beside pleasing Allah Jalla ala, because I believe that this is the true Islamic position, is they love to protect the Ummah, and they love, as you said, for our sisters, because I believe that our sisters have more important role, and they can, once they understand their role, they can change the face of our ummah. Yeah, and also they will be, their honor will be protected, because I see the humiliation that they are going through now, because they are not following, or because not they, because generally speaking the Islamic guidelines are not followed. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Inshallah, I would like to say Jazakallah khairan to you for, for your valuable time and for your advice. And we take it as nasiha, sincere advice. Jazakallah khairan. And hopefully we can have future conversations like this, because
Inshallah.
there are questions that sometimes, sisters would like to ask the shuyukh to address them directly, and
Yeah.
their particular needs,
Inshallah.
their particular I would say, motivation. So,
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, Jazakallah khairan, brothers and sisters. I hope you enjoyed that and benefited from that session. And if you do want to send me any feedback, please do leave a comment. Please like this talk and give us a rating, and that way, if you can share it as well, that will help it spread to other people, and more sisters can benefit, inshallah. With that, I will bid you farewell. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You've been listening to Ummah Talk with Fatima Barkatullah. Please share this episode, please leave a comment, and let us know what you think about the issues that we've discussed. Jazakumullahu khairan, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.